welcome to a beautiful Tuesday evening. Apologies that we're starting a little bit later than normal. Let me just turn that down. So we have quite a few less people than we normally do today. So before I go anywhere, does anybody want to come and take up some space on the sofa? Are we comfortable and happy on chairs? Happy over there? Okay, cool. Not a problem. So my name is Daniel Halenko. I am one of the people that run Entrepreneurs for Good. And we are part of a global connection institute called Entrepreneurs Institute. We are currently in 60 cities, and we're on schedule to be in 200 cities by the end of the year. So every single time we have our events, we broadcast them live online. So we're broadcasting to about 2 million people on the platform at the minute. Can you hear me okay at the back? Yeah? Super. We have some nice sheets in front of you all today. So this has our connections online. We're on Twitter and Facebook, and we're encouraging any tweets or connections today. So our hashtag is ENT4Good if you're wanting to get your phones out during the event. The big thing that we're really looking at the minute, so Entrepreneurs for Good is an organization that exists to bring together profitability within companies and purposeness and being purposeful. So it's about how do we build businesses which provide a benefit, a service, a product to our customers, whilst at the same time understanding how that sits within a bigger ecosystem to make sure that the choices that we're making are conscious choices which benefit more than just the company that you're part of. We link every single one of our talks with the United Nations global goals. So these are 17 goals that were created by the United Nations in order to make a more fair and more sustainable world. And this month when we're talking about number 10, which is reduced inequalities. We always ask our speaker to look at all the different global goals that are out there and find ones that link with themselves. So we've covered everything from sustainable housing to smarter cities. We've looked at education, we've looked at food. And so today, what's in line with Sacha's heart is better inequalities around the world. So I want to introduce our speaker for this month. Without giving too much away, Sacha has been one of the people that has really inspired myself just to show how you can't use your background doesn't define who you are or where you come from. And that whatever happens to you at a younger age, you can break through absolutely every single barrier, whether it's a glass ceiling that you create yourself or one that's imposed by others, and you can become whoever and whatever you want to be. So I would love you all to give a beautiful round of applause to welcome today Sacha Atherton.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me? No, you can't hear me?
A bit louder. Try again.
Hello? You can hear me now? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay.
Super duper.
Thank you, is what I was trying to say.
So, I think I'm going to take a wild punt here, but raise your hand if you have never seen or heard of Sacha before. That's pretty much everyone. So why don't we start with this? So where are you today? If we were to take a biography snapshot of your life right now, how would you summarize kind of what you do and what you're about so that the people here can have a better understanding?
I'm a mum, first and foremost, single mum. I have 3 businesses today. Probably by next week it might be about 5 or 6 because that's what I tend to do. The businesses are still not new, but I'd say that they're still growing. So, when you kind of speak to people and say that you're 32, you've got 3 businesses, they think you're rich. I'm not. But yeah, in summary, that's what I'd say.
Okay. And if you were to summarize those 3 businesses,
yeah,
what do they do?
Okay, so the first one was Premier Parents Recruitment, which is a recruitment company which focuses on parental employment, so flexible working and just making sure employers are inclusive in terms of parents. That's the main business that I launched 2 years ago. Then a kind of flavour of that is J.S. Simone Consulting, which is pretty much the same, ethical recruiting, but non-parental. So any kind of recruitment, but making sure employers are ethical in their process and their approach. My latest one, which is about 2 months old, is the Happy Hair Box Company. And where I'm at today, I don't know if you guys have heard of Rochelle Humes. So she sent me a message last week and was like, hey, doll, I'm filming next week. Can you come? And I was just like, what? So through the Happy Hair Box Company, I went and did some filming with Rochelle last week. So currently juggling quite a lot is what I'm doing right now, but all good stuff.
And from the little that I do know about yourself, you've juggled quite a lot for a long time.
Yeah, it's the norm.
So everyone's journey starts somewhere, and I think what captivated me the most when we spoke was your teenagehood.
Yeah.
So if you can maybe summarize that kind of towards the back end of school, leading up to pre-20s, these are the moments that really like define who you are.
Sure.
So what happened during that time?
So at 16, I became homeless. I went to live in a hostel, and I was taking my GCSEs at that time. So you can imagine it was a challenging time. Luckily, I wasn't on the streets, but still being in a hostel and taking your exams was a challenging time. So surprisingly, I did quite well. I even came out with a couple of A's. I don't know how, but
what were your A's in?
English, which is not maths for sure, because I'm still rubbish at that. But so that happened, and then from there on out, it was building my resilience, my work ethic, and everything else kind of came off the back of that. This whole survival mode that I've kind of been in ever since. I'm still kind of in that whole drive comes from that, being 16 and kind of thriving to survive, I suppose.
And so post 16, you finish your exams. How long after, were you in the hostel for a long time after that? Or did you manage to get out?
I was in the hostel maybe about a year, and then I went into I'd say shared accommodation, but it was with Framework. So I then had to live with people that were suffering from addiction. I didn't, but there was nowhere else for me to go. So I kind of had to go into supported housing and live with alcoholics, drug addicts for just over a year. Again, a very challenging time. I was about, 17, 18 at that point. Had a bit of an attitude at that time as well. So you can only imagine a feisty 18-year-old living with people that were trashing the house all the time and trying to steal my stuff, and angry.
Was that harder than the hostel?
Different. I was very embarrassed about being in a hostel. So that whole challenge of still going to school and having to try and pretend you're not living in a hostel. And then there was always some drama going off at the hostel because it was just girls going through challenging times. But then, living in a house with people that were just going through a different type of challenge and addiction, and that was tough.
Okay. So if you fast forward a bit from there, that's obviously given you use the word resilience, which is obviously a very required trait in business.
Sure.
But at what point did it become too much? At what point did something occur which made you say, you know what, this path that I'm on it isn't going where I want to go, or isn't in the right flow that I want to be in?
I didn't ever really do that. I think one thing with me is that I've always just got on with it, whether I was thinking about doing that or not. So for me, it was kind of, okay, I'm living in this hostel. Okay, I'm living in this house. I was working. So even when I lived in this supported house, I was still working. I worked from I left school. I left school, I did an apprenticeship, and then I've worked since I was 16. So it's never really been a thing like that for me. It was kind of, life is rubbish for ages, and I was in that whole victim mentality and really angry for a long period of time, but I still had to crack on. And that was just my approach to it.
And I'm assuming the anger actually drove you a lot of the time.
Yeah, so I was a very angry, I'd say teenager, but even into my 20s, I was just really angry. And that actually progressed for a long time. I'd say the whole victim thing and the anger thing went on for quite a while, into my 20s. But I was able to transfer that, into the skills, into working. I did music for a little bit, so, singing and stuff, being able to go and perform after work or at the weekend and stuff, put in the fact that I've had a tough time or a tough week, I'd just go and use that and kind of use that as fuel, really.
That's how you would vent then, through creative and artistic expression at the time. Yeah. Okay. And so then, at some point in your 20s, and I can't remember which job it was, because the first company you set up was the ethical parenting company.
Yeah, Premier Parents. Yeah.
So if we went back into the year that led up to you setting that up, what was the catalyst that made you switch from a mainstream job that you might have been pushing through and doing your best with to making this decision? Because you've obviously not had a background of business.
No.
So what was that? What was that last year's? What was that like? Because it was enough to make you make the big shift.
So, totally by accident, I suppose. In the sense that, so as I said, I worked from a young age, but I did quite well. So I worked for Experian for about 6 years. All of that gave me commercial acumen, business awareness, but not as an entrepreneur. And then I asked for flexible working when my daughter was due to start school. And I worked in a tech environment, so predominantly male, small tech environment. And I asked for the flexible working to go and pick Jay up from school a couple of days a week, and they said no. So I was like, I'm not staying. And then I handed my notice in, didn't have a job, thought I'd go and get a job quite easily. I was a product manager, so I was on decent money.
How long did that take from a conversation to handing your notice in?
I literally had the conversation, went to London, had a wicked weekend in London, came back to work. That very first day I got an email, I was like, I am not doing this. Sent an email, I was like, I'm handing my notice in. I was just like, I'd been thinking about it, of course, because I just thought, I'm not sacrificing my time with my daughter. It's too important. I put her in nursery when she was 10 months old. I did that whole thing early on, but school was different for me. So, pretty quick that I kind of handed it in, but still with thought. I still considered it. So that's what happened.
And so then, post that, you thought you'd be able to go and get a job?
Yeah, so I just thought, I'd walk out and go and get a nice flexible working job. I can do some working from home. I was a product manager, so a good skill set. Nothing, I'm from Nottingham, so nothing even in the Midlands. And I kept getting phone calls from London saying, will you relocate? And I'm like, well, no, because my daughter just started school. And then that's kind of where the idea came for me in terms of the barriers. A lot of the barriers came from recruitment agencies. So any kind of conversation that I had about any kind of part-time or flexible working, they weren't interested. If they didn't have an active role that was part-time, they weren't going to go and have a conversation with an employer about, I've got this fantastic candidate, but she wants flexible working. So I decided to create my own.
And so it's birthed
Premier
Parenting.
Yeah.
Because I was really interested, because when I spoke to Sacha on the phone, she said, I run an ethical recruitment company. And the minute someone can put the word ethical in front of a whole industry, it actually tells you more about the industry than it does tell you about the company itself.
For sure. Yeah.
So, anyone had involvements in and around recruitment companies? Okay, half the room. Okay, well, for those that haven't,
don't.
It isn't the most pleasant experience.
No,
whether you're employing or an employer. I have seen both sides. So, did you find an easy niche for it, or was it quite difficult? Because your candidates are unique to begin with.
Sure.
And I suppose the employers aren't exactly kicking the door down to come in.
No, so I had hundreds of candidates before I even launched. I had newspapers doing articles on me before I'd even launched, because it was like, oh my goodness, it's going to be a recruitment consultancy for parents. It was one of those things where everybody kept saying, why has nobody done this before? However, employees didn't care about it then. So when I launched in 2016, diversity and inclusion was not a thing. So I was having this conversation about flexible working. You're missing out on this whole pool of talent just because you won't, emit a few hours. And they weren't interested. In Nottingham in particular, they weren't interested. And then it took me about a year. I mean, I made about £2,000 in my first year. And my outgoings were about 25k. So you can only imagine. I had nothing, no money. It was so hard. One of the hardest times, actually, because I was all right when I was struggling financially for myself. When I had my daughter, and I just bought a house, and I'd had the house and everything else. Yeah, it was tough. So initially, I had all the demand from the candidates. The employees weren't bothered. And then in 2017, something happened, and they were. So that's
And there's no catalyst for that. You can't put your finger on it. Wasn't David Attenborough talking about plastic, and now everyone's like, destroy plastic?
It's a combination of things, really. Diversity and inclusion has become a popular thing now. If you go on LinkedIn and everything else, you will see absolutely everybody talking about diversity and inclusion. When there becomes a driver or a strategic goal that the employers have got to adopt, everybody starts talking about it. And my parental employment company ticked that D&I box. So that's one thing. The other thing is that The Guardian approached me to do an article for them, a letter to my younger self. And that went a bit viral on LinkedIn. And then some of my clients came through there. So that's what happened.
If anyone didn't fully capture that, the piece that The Guardian asked her to do was called A Letter to My Younger Self. And if you just like have a Google and read it, and you can read other people's letters, and I tell you what, it's even just reading yours and others, it's really therapeutic. And I would imagine when you wrote it...
Well, it was, but it was very uncomfortable.
No, I can imagine it is.
Very uncomfortable. But yeah, it was, at the end of it, quite healing, yes. But having to not only revisit it, I mean, I'm okay talking to you guys about it now because I've spoken at quite a lot of events and shared my story quite a lot now, but having to actually write it in a way that you're speaking to yourself and revisit all of the particularly challenging times of your life and then have it published in The Guardian was just like so super uncomfortable, but helped loads of people. So it was good.
And I bet did you get lots of responses and comments from that about how that helped them?
Yeah, loads from across the world, actually, America in particular.
Wow. So from that, because I think it was on the back of that, how do you reach the stage where you've started these businesses, you've got The Guardian contacting you, you're writing this letter that goes globally viral that people can see it. Talk us through the moment then when you get contacted from Google to be asked to come in and support them in their establishment, and why and how that came about.
So, the whole Google situation happened off the back of that article in a sense because it just exposed me to a lot more people, and loads more people knew who I was via LinkedIn. And then I got a message from Craig Fenton, who is a director at Google, just saying, really love what you're doing, give Jaya a fist bump for me. And I was like, okay.
How old's Jay? Jay's her daughter, by the way.
Jaya,
how old's Jay at this point?
She's 7. This was like last year, so she was 6, but she's 7 now. So I was like, again, like the Rochelle Humes thing the other day, you look at it about 5 times, like, I'm actually seeing this. But so I was like, thanks very much. And then shortly after, I had the idea of an event called Guys That Get It. And it was basically kind of, well, celebrating in a way, but more giving a platform to men that support gender equality and stuff. Because I feel like a lot of us are too keen to just have women in a room talking about challenges that affect us, when actually, if we're really going to address them, we need the men in the room too. So I held this event. I had this idea for an event called Guys That Get It, and I messaged him just to ask him what he thought. He was like, yeah, put me down, I'll speak on the panel. I was like, yes. So that's kind of how the relationship came about, and he just was kind of drawn to me, from, I think I do a lot by myself, and I've achieved quite a lot by myself. And I think the fact that he saw that, he really liked it. When people ask me now, how on earth did you get Craig Fenton to come and speak at your event or do this and do that, I still can't really tell you. And I ask him myself, and he's just like, I just loved what you were about. So that's kind of how that happened. He spoke at the event, and then since then we've just been in touch and we have conversations. Google don't need help recruiting, obviously, but have conversations about will parents returning to work really apply for a job at Google? Probably not. So just those type of conversations, and he's just very supportive in everything I do, really.
Fantastic. And I think as well, arguably one of the reasons he got in touch with you is all the way through this, you've been authentic.
Yeah.
You've had your own integrity.
Sure.
Spade to spade, you see how you see what it is. And that's what people see at the end of the day, that if you're trying to put a face on and be somebody else, eventually you can't run that forever, or people will see through it.
Yeah, I think, so growing up, people at work, Experian in particular, never knew what was happening with me. So I kept everything in for a long period of time, and it was super damaging for me. And then I started to realise by sharing little bits since becoming an entrepreneur, little bits that I'd share on LinkedIn and stuff, people responded so well to it. And then that letter to The Guardian and stuff just made me realise that I need to just share my story with people, because that's what's resonating. That's what's making business people realise that, yeah, she's authentic. Actually, she's really genuine. We can trust her. Let's start having a conversation. So there's been real power and value in me sharing my story, which is why I continue to do it.
Super. And always interested to know this. Who and how many times have people said, no, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it that way, it can't be done that way?
Lots and lots. And I think that is, I'd say the majority throughout my life since a young age has been no. I think everybody always has one teacher that's the cool teacher, or, that sees something in you. And I had one teacher, Mr. Ward. He was really cool.
Was he the art teacher or the
no,
RE
English,
teacher?
English. Yeah.
It was always the art teacher.
Probably because I was
teacher.
so good at English and rubbish at maths. But so, when I think of people saying yes, I think about a cool teacher that would, be quite complimentary and stuff. But just, growing up and working at Experian, which was predominantly a white company, successful white males, very few women of authority, very few women of colour in authority for sure. So everything's been a hustle for me. I've hustled for absolutely everything, and I've had to work super, super hard for absolutely everything, the small and the big. And a lot of no's came with that, or a lot of, what on earth are you doing? Yeah, so quite a few.
Which is a harder hit sometimes than a no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't suppose you know what the stat is for coloured women in C-level positions, CEOs, CFOs?
Not enough.
Definitely not enough.
Yeah.
I did have a sheet with all the pieces of paper with all the stats on, but I know that it's ever so slightly on the rise, but trailing massively behind just women in C-level positions.
It's a double-edged sword for me every time I see an article on LinkedIn saying first black female president of this and that, and I'm like, yeah, that's great, but I'm like, the fact that we've even got to say that, it just shows how bad it is.
It's the old, there's a picture and it said, what will women leaders of the future be called? And he just said, leaders.
Leader. Yeah, exactly.
The first time I saw that,
yeah.
I was like, so I make a point now of trying to not say it too much.
I mean, it's the reality that we live in, but yeah.
Okay, excellent. So, last thing before we go on a little break, and this is just a quick question about Jay. It is Jay, isn't it?
JR,
that's it. And how much over the course of time? So she's 7 now, so that means all the businesses have been made since she's been alive.
Yeah.
So, how much would you put down who you are today and the drive you have today down to being a parent, let alone a single parent?
So I will say this and genuinely mean it, that Jaya actually saved me. So becoming a mum really gave me a different kind of purpose in life. And as I've said, I've been very resilient, but before I had her, I started to get really down. Like my mental health it's like it all took its toll. It's like I kind of sat there at one point and was like, I have been through a lot. And then it got really challenging. But then having my daughter literally gave me a totally new purpose, and just my whole approach to everything. I'm a brilliant mum, and I'm a brilliant mum because it's what I didn't have, so that so much comes with that. I have to credit her for everything, my drive of everything. She is the coolest 7-year-old you have ever met. She has days off school to go to the Google HQ. I'm just like, who does that? She came with me to Rochelle and did filming. It was supposed to be both of us. She went off and did her own vlog. I was just like, what is this?
She went off to do her own video vlog.
You'll probably see it when Rochelle launches her Curls Like Us thing next week. But my daughter was doing her own hair tutorial by herself. I was just like, yeah, I don't need my mum. I'm off. So, but the fact that I've been able to expose her to these things and give her this opportunity, or these opportunities, has been, phenomenal, really.
Please tell me the school are totally okay with you taking your daughter to Google.
I didn't ask, I told them, but obviously, it's one of those things where they must actually think I'm lying most of the time. I'm just like,
I'm just taking my daughter to Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I'm just like, she's been invited to Google by the director, and they're just like, all right then. And then, oh yeah, she's just going to film with Rochelle Humes. They're just kind of like, I feel like, is she lying or not? But yeah, I don't ask them, I tell them, but they haven't really challenged it so far.
Awesome. All right, well, that takes us to the first part of our break. You will find on your tables an opportunity knocks. If anyone can hold one up for me, because I don't think I have one. They're not on. You will not find the opportunity knocks on your table. That's not it. Sorry, that's a feedback form. It's okay. They're at the back of the room, and so opportunity knocks is you can come to events and you can learn some nice content. You can sit and enjoy beautiful cake. But what we try and do with our events every single month is all of us need help and support somewhere. And all of us can, even if we don't think we need something, we can all give something. And so you don't know who you sat next to. Some people might be more chatty than others, some might not be. And so the Opportunity Knocks is a really short piece of paper. It's got 4 questions on. And the most 2 important ones are, what do you want to give? So this is who I am and this is what I can give. And what are you looking for? And they just get pinned up on the board. And it's an opportunity for you to just go see who's in the room. And you might be sat needing some kick-ass photography. You might want some web design. You might want to be able to give some financial support, because on that note, I'd imagine financial support for yourself doing the accounts was difficult. Not liking maths.
I actually don't even know how I run these businesses. My maths is awful,
Yeah.
but Google's great.
So all these things is why in business, and it goes back to one of the things Roger talks about is the wealth dynamic square. And all of us are perfect, but we're perfect in certain areas. We certainly don't have 100% of everything. So partnering with people and working with people that have what you don't have just allows you to be a more whole wheel. If you imagine a wheel with 25, 30% of it cut out, it wouldn't make for a bumpy, it wouldn't make for a smooth ride. So take 5 minutes once you've got some coffee and some cake, fill in an opportunity knock, see who's in the room, and then just reach out and you can make contact. So until that, we'll have about a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back for questions and answers after that. Thanks very much, guys. So, we're going to have about probably about 20 to 25 minutes of questions and answers and just a little bit of a run through of stuff. We do actually have our roaming mic today for the first time. Before I crack on with a couple of questions, I just want to ask, after you've had a listen to some of Sacha's story, are there any immediate questions that are coming up from people that they would like to ask to kick us off with a first question? One at the back. Yes, sir. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Jordan.
Hello, Jordan.
Is it on?
Yes,
Hello.
on.
First of all, thanks a lot. Very inspirational story.
Thank you.
So when you're having a bad day, and you feel like you're going to have one of those days where you procrastinate on everything, you're just not really feeling into it, what are the type of conversations that you have with yourself?
Very good question, and I'm glad that you know that I have conversations with myself.
I thought we all have conversations with ourselves.
No, not everybody, I don't think. So my thing is like, I often say, have your wobble and crack on. So I do have days where I'm fuming, where I'm just like, a client's annoyed me, or being just me most of the time in a small business. Every delay with invoice or anything impacts me massively, as you can imagine. So I do have days where I just think, oh my gosh, I'm just grafting. And I'll have a bit of a whinge and I might, crack a cider or something like that. And then I just get over it the next day. The conversations that I have with myself after that moaning bit is just get on with it. You've had your moan. Yes, everybody needs a moan, and we do for sure. But then I just have to get on. And I have to get on anyway, because sitting there moaning about it and feeling sorry for myself doesn't actually do anything for me. So that's kind of what I do. Hope that answered it for you.
Sorry, we're having some technical...
Oh.
I was just wondering about the technicalities of setting up your recruitment agency. You said you had 25 grand in reserve. Did you get that from the bank, or was that savings? Or?
So basically...
I'm just going to repeat that switch through there. So that's a question about the technicals and the finances, because you said there's about 25 grand that was in the bank that was a reserve. Is that a good enough...
I was wondering if that was savings or you borrowed that from the bank.
Don't have any savings. Haven't had any money growing up. I've not had savings. I've just literally hand to mouth is kind of how I've lived my whole life. No. So when I set the company up, I went on like income support or whatever I was at that time, job seekers, and then I just made it into Prince's Trust. That was just 30, but not for the finance, just for a mentor. So the 25k that I referred to is kind of what my outgoings were or are, and I just didn't make that money. So when I don't make money through my businesses, I have none. When I launched Premier Parents, I got 10 grand from Virgin Startup, which is why I've got such a great relationship with Virgin now. So I do blogs and stuff for them. But in terms of the finances, that first year when I only made £2,000, I only had that £2,000. And that was, I can't tell you how I managed it. I literally can't tell you. So no, there were no savings. I think obviously if you've got that, if you can, or if you can work whilst you're trying to launch a business, I would say do it, because it's too hard. It's doable, but if you can. So I was allowed to apply for the Prince's Trust because I was on the benefits, and I was on those benefits up until I launched the business. So 6 months it took me to launch Premier Parents. So through that period, I was on job seekers. As soon as I launched the business, I had that 10 grand, which I had to go and cover everything, and then once that was gone, that was it.
So you got 10 grand. So it's basically 10 grand.
Yeah, the 10 grand did not last me very long at all either.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
Sorry. When you decided, obviously, when you started your company, how did you start finding, your customers? Because obviously you had the people who wanted a job. How did you approach companies to kind of be like, hey, I'm doing something awesome? Obviously, you had the Google thing later on, which kickstarted, but that took a year.
Yeah.
So how did you do in the meantime?
So I tried to do really cute marketing campaigns, like branded donuts and stuff. Didn't work. Nobody cared about the brand of donuts. They just ate them and didn't respond to me. So that didn't work. My approach was to focus locally in Nottingham and go and approach every single company that I could think of with things like that, with emails, with nipping into, reception. None of it worked. None of my clients have been in Nottingham. All of my clients are here and down south. So that's how I got them. And they all, 99% came through LinkedIn.
That's really interesting. So the majority of your customers came through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And is that because of you getting more exposure moving from the garden? Is that because you started posting on LinkedIn?
I'm very active, really active. I'm really active on LinkedIn. And anybody that's heard me speak at any event, you would think I've got shares in LinkedIn because that's all I ever go on about. But it's been so powerful for me. Yes, it's been the Guardian article, but not just that. I wrote about 2 lines summarising what Premier Parents was. That went viral, like 600,000 views. I was like, how? I don't know what content was in there, but everything in terms of business clients and stuff has either come through LinkedIn word of mouth or LinkedIn, they've seen me post something.
So just for the people here, because I'm really interested, because LinkedIn has, especially in the last 6 months, grown and evolved, because it's maybe been not static, obviously, but it's a completely unique platform at the minute.
Yeah.
There's only one other that I'm aware of that's even trying to compare to it. So what's your process on LinkedIn? How do you go about doing it? I mean, you're predominantly B2B, in fact, you're all B2B apart from the Happy Hair Box,
That's right,
which we'll come on to.
Yeah.
What's your process with LinkedIn methodically, or is it just completely whenever you feel it?
So I'm called a disruptor in the industry. I don't know if I like it or not, but I'll go with it. It's fine. Because I wouldn't say I'm controversial, but I speak about things that other people don't on a platform like LinkedIn.
I think that's controversial.
I don't think it is, but yeah. So I just post stuff that I'm thinking most of the time. And I do, they're called articles on LinkedIn, but I do blogs and things like that. So my thing is kind of methodical in the sense that I'm fully aware that different people respond to different types of mediums. So some people will like to see me speak in a video. I've started doing more videos now because you can do videos on LinkedIn. That was great. That was a game changer. Some people want to read a blog from me. Some people want to read a status. So I will literally pretty much every day go and post something of all of those, one of each or something like that. But engagement varies. I did a blog the other day to say diversity and inclusion has become so common now. Everybody on LinkedIn actually speaks about diversity and inclusion that it's just lost its meaning. None of us are engaged with diversity and inclusion now. So engagement varies, but I'd say constant content is good, but make sure the people that you connected with are interested in what you're saying.
And do you actually, strategically, do you actually tag and connect people in, or are you just posting what you feel's right and it just works?
I'm so not a salesy person. Like even with my clients, it's got to be natural. I can't, I'm not, that's not me. So even with tagging people, I don't like tagging people in my posts. I feel like it's intrusive. That's not to say it's wrong because it's quite effective. So most of the time, no, I'll just post something. And I'll post something with a picture. I post my daughter on there a lot because it's still business relevant. You've got a lot of people on LinkedIn moan about the fact that some of the stuff belongs on Facebook. It's like it's losing its commercial appeal. But my thing is that I feel like the business world needs to be much more human. So
that's arguably what's been lost
for
the last couple of decades.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll just start touching a little bit more on Jaya there. Did you make a conscious decision to include her in your business life, your discussions and things like that?
Yeah. So I feel like at school we're taught that you're supposed to be employed. Like the whole purpose of school is to get your education and you go and get a job. And particularly when I started my own businesses, I was like, I don't want my daughter thinking that the only option for her is to go out and get a job, especially when she can see me grafting. She sees me grafting every day. You know, she's fully aware. So I started involving her. She is literally my lead consultant on the Happy Hair Box stuff, characters and stuff. I ask her. She's 7 years old. You know, some of my characters are some of my customers are children. You know, so she is heavily involved, and I think that's so important because she will go out and she will go and speak and do vlogs by herself. She will go in that same vlog. She was speaking about how she wants to be a coder. You know, she wants to go to code clubs.
She wants to be a
coder.
A coder.
Yeah, a software developer. She wants to create her own games. You know, she's having those conversations, and it's totally normal to her because me and her have those conversations. So, yes, in answer to your question, yeah.
Oh, okay. I never thought it'd come the day where 7-year-olds want to be coders.
She wants to go to code club, and we don't have any in Nottingham.
Code club?
Yeah. We don't have any in Nottingham, but you have loads here. So she's very happy about the fact that we're moving here, and she's going to get to go to code club.
Fantastic. Anyone got any under 10-year-old children? We're going to questions in a minute. I'm just curious. Do they want to be coders?
My daughter wants to be a footballer. She's 6.
That's cool. That's good.
No, I don't think she knows what
Right, and that's what we need
But she
to
wants
do.
to be a footballer at least.
Yeah.
Well, even that shows
Yeah,
that her times
it
have
is.
changed as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, question from the front.
So I run my business as well. I think, I really get what you were saying. Like at the beginning, it was really quiet, and all of a sudden, it just exploded. I think because you kind of see what the society needs, and sometimes it might be just a little bit too early. So I get that. But I think the real struggle for me when I started it is how to scale it. How do you manage the team? Because I can see where you come from. I like to do everything myself. It's really hard for me not to make sure everything's 100% the way I think it should be.
Yeah.
So how do you scale it, especially with all the tension, all the resources thrown at you?
I'm probably not the best person to ask because I'm still in that mindset of I have to do everything myself. I am at the point now where I am going to have to scale up. I'm probably on a big scale with the Happy Hair Box stuff because it's going to explode. It's already started. What I'd say is resources like Virgin Startup. I don't know if you've been on their website, but they have so many resources and blogs and stuff from people that have done it. Like small businesses that have scaled up recently or really useful. That's what I've started doing now to start preparing myself to know what the actual steps are. Speak to people that have done it is what I'd say to you. I'm not that person, but that's what I'm going to do. Virgin Startup's amazing. Just, on their website, there's loads of blogs and stuff from people that are in all stages of business, all levels of success and failure, and they've shared them in terms of blogs and stuff. They have workshops on scaling your business and that kind of thing. So I'd recommend those. I might be there with you, to be honest.
Thanks. Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Coach, come.
I think it's quite important, like you have a kid and you're managing your business. It's important for me that I want to support and spend time with people I care about as well. So how do you manage that and running the business?
A really good question. So the best thing about becoming self-employed is the fact that I get to do the school run. Today is one of the very few days that I haven't got to do the school run, but that's okay because nearly every day I'm at school. That said, that doesn't always mean that I'm present. And that's something that I battle with all the time. I have mum guilt because now, for example, right now, I'm trying to grow the Happy Hair Box and develop it into a high-end company. I am literally on my phone, on social media, plugging and working pretty much the whole day. Then I'll pick her up from school, we'll have a little bit of time, and then she goes to bed. So I think you need to realise that you're not always going to be able to do that. You're not always going to be able to try and get a balance. But you do need to make sure that you're present. I think for me, there's some days where I'll just leave my phone in my room and then we'll just go and play something. And that's for me how I do it. But when you're launching like the early stages, you just got to be okay with the fact that, you're going to have to sacrifice a bit of family time, knowing it's for the greater good. But just make sure it doesn't become the norm, is what I'd say.
Does that help? Yeah. Super. There's one thing I wanted to touch on, which is about kind of like the scaling of a business. And I was talking about this the other day. One thing that Roger talks about, he refers to businesses in different colours. It's actually like the colours of a rainbow. It starts at infrared, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, ultraviolet, violet and ultraviolet. Which is why when I found that out, I have no idea why the song "I Can See a Rainbow" does not follow that color sequence, and it confused me for a while. But forgetting infrared and red for now, orange is what they call a worker level. And at orange level, you trade time for money. I work an hour, I get paid an hour. And you can master that, and you can earn more money if you work more hours or you get a better job. And the reason I'm bringing this up is the thing that you master to own that level is the thing that holds you back from getting to the next level. So at orange level, you know, I'm the man. I've got this, I do this, I get paid. To move to yellow, you need a team. And the first thing you have to accept when you go from orange to yellow is that, I need other people, but they're not going to do it as well as me. And you go through this whole, whether you want to call it ego side or whether you want to call it control freak, it doesn't matter. Something in you has to relax to allow the fact that I'm not as good as 10 people. Yeah? And then to go from yellow to green, at yellow level, you realize I'm the glue for these 10 people. And if you take me away, it just falls down. And that's where a lot of small SME businesses will get to, and they know that, and it can work really, really well, and you can go pretty big, but you're still the Dom. To get to green, you have to realize that somebody better than me can run my business better than me and just report in. And that's one of the hardest stops for an entrepreneur, because you've got so much emotional attachment in the business that to just say, right, Sacha, I'm going to bring you in to run it. I just want a report each month is another level. And so if you're looking to scale, the first thing to look at is which bit of you sits inside the wheel, or are you at the center of the wheel? Because quite often you're the biggest barrier in your own business. And if if you don't see that, then have a good look, because it does cause a lot of problems sometimes. So I hope that helps with scaling a little bit and just seeing what might need to come next. Any other questions at this point? We'll have one at the back. Yes, Christina.
Thank you so much, Sacha. That was really, really fabulous, very inspiring. I'm just really curious, because I used to be a recruiter. That's what I did for 10 years.
My gosh, did you? You're too nice.
That's why she didn't make it in recruitment.
That's why I left. But yeah, so I completely get where you're coming from with the industry. But I'm really curious as to how you created a business when you didn't have really experience and exposure in that industry. How did you transition that? And did you get mentors? How did you do that?
When I first started in recruitment with no recruitment experience, I only had experience as a hiring manager internally. Yeah. A lot of recruiters were like, she's not even a recruiter. She's not even got the experience. Thank God I did not, because that's what made me such a nice and good recruiter. That is why my candidate experience is totally different to normal recruiters. So in terms of that, at first I was like, am I supposed to have experience in this? And I quickly realized it's a great thing that I haven't. No, I didn't, because if I think about it now, if I would have had a recruiter as a mentor, I don't think that would have gone very well, considering that I'm working with parents that are trying to get back into work. That whole empathy, that whole empathy aspect of it is not there. So if I went to somebody that had that mindset, I am the mum that I'm helping. I'm that person. So a recruiter can't help me do that better.
No, thank you. You're absolutely right.
I'm still in shock that you're a recruiter. This is crazy.
I suppose that's a perfect example of you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes some of the biggest disruptors are people that are a bit naive in a way. And that's why people laugh, is because what do you know? Yeah. Well, actually, nothing, and that's good because exactly. I can start afresh. It's like someone new coming into your business and all of a sudden going, why'd you do it that way?
Exactly.
Well, that's how we've always done it.
Yeah.
And then they show you and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize it did that. It moved. Fantastic. Thank you very much. With regards to Happy Hair Box.
Yes.
Because we didn't touch on it more at the beginning. What is it? And because not everyone will relate to it, why do you need it? And how is that beneficial to... Why are you getting so much attention around it right now?
Okay, so the Happy Hair Box company is formed around... This is the core product here. So this is a storage box for hair products. So if you have curly hair, like me, you have a million products. Hair oils, conditioners, and everything else. So me and my daughter have all of these hair products, and I was sat there with a battered Shopkins bag that was falling to pieces, doing her hair, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need something to put this stuff in. Then I was like, I'd really like it if I could put positive images on there as well. Because obviously through a lot of the work that I do, it is about inclusion, it is about gender stereotypes and gender equality. One of my main clients was in engineering, tech as well. So I had the idea, and I am very quick to market because I can't rest. Once I've had the idea, I have to go and trial it or test it. So within a week or something, I was like, right, get me a prototype. So I got a prototype made. So then I was like speaking to all my friends, what do you guys put your hair products in? They were like a bag. I was like, yeah. So then 3 weeks later, I found a supplier. The supplier was awful. So then I had to find another supplier, and I did. Then I realized I'm going to do the boxes myself. So I found a company that did vinyl stickers. So really high quality that you can't peel off. Just did them myself. So that's the core product. Then me being me and always being scared of going right back to that homeless Sacha when I was younger, because that is still something that drives me now. At any point I could be broke, because I'm still in those early, well, kind of early, but I'm still in those stages of business where it's very inconsistent, particularly in recruitment. I can have grands come in and then have absolutely nothing for 4 months. That is the nature of it. I can't live like that. And that fear of going right back to square one is always in me. So I was like, yeah, I can't just have these boxes. I need to do something else. So I designed my own towel. This is a frizz taming towel that I've designed that is made of organic cotton and bamboo, right? So most people don't know that when you have curly and afro hair, normal towels, the friction from it makes your hair frizzier. So I was like, I'm going to make my own towel. So I did. And this is what's going crazy right now, is the towel. So that's what the Happy Hair Box company is. It's kind of hair care products, but I've really diversified it. Yeah.
So I'm just shocked by that. Would that include people with frizzy Afro Caribbean hair don't know that a normal towel makes it go more frizzy?
I didn't know.
How did you find that out?
Did you know that? Right.
Do you want a towel?
Go on the website. I've actually got one to show you. Actually,
I remember on the webinar when I was talking to her, she went, "It's called a taming towel," and I mean, I don't have much hair, let alone curly frizzy hair. So it's like a taming towel.
Yeah, so a frizz taming towel. So it comes with a waterproof travel bag. So that if you're going on holiday and stuff or swimming, I've got kids and adults one, so that's what this comes with. And then
can I touch it? Oh. Wow. Hang on.
Sorry. If you're on Instagram, go on Happy Hair Box and go and see my before and after pictures, right? That is why these have started going crazy. Honestly, I was telling everybody I've created these frizz taming towels, and everyone was like, oh, that's interesting. I put the pictures up. The sales have gone through the roof. I'm not joking. You know, I've got... Yeah, so all of that is what prompted the Rochelle Humes message. Then I've had another celebrity that's messaged me. She's asked for a towel. I sent her that the other day, so she's going to post about it soon. So it's this. It's the towel that's kind of sent it crazy. At the same time, the boxes are doing well for the kids, but it's still that challenge of the mum saying, do you do princesses? No.
So, because I wanted to make a point of that because you didn't explain it. What do you do? Hold your box up again. Put it over here.
Okay, let me just put this lid on.
Because I have a box like this, but my box is full of like batteries and pieces of metal that I don't know where to put.
So we've basically got different characters. So there's this one, which is an engineer. And
What's she called?
Elenia, the engineer.
Elenia, the engineer.
Yeah. And she's actually got afro hair, which you never see that anywhere. I can tell you straight, I've had look for characters and dolls and stuff, and it's very hard to find some that look like, my daughter or other people. There's another one called Jaya the Curly Coder, obviously. And then just an astronaut. We've got a scientist in a wheelchair. So it's all about representation, all about positive representation, and actually giving people products that look like them, but all of us. So, yeah, it's just getting over that. Some parents asking for, can I have a ballerina, can I have a princess? No.
So you have a no princess policy?
Nope. That is not what this product's about. It's about challenging stereotypes and encouraging equality.
Can you put that little character on your tab?
I've got them on the kids ones. On the kids ones, that's what's on there, and it says, "My hair is my crown."
I just want to make a point. You also don't have curly hair. Well, actually, I don't know. You might work really hard on it today. You go home and
yeah, exactly. So and then I've got notepads like with these characters on.
So you got full stationery sets coming out.
Yeah, I've got the notepads which have got like positive affirmations on, and the characters as well. I've got a colouring book coming out with the characters on. I keep getting adults asking me for adult hair boxes, so I'm about to do a whole campaign around that, to do adult characters as well. So that is what the Happy Hair Box company is.
Fantastic. So at this point, I would love you all to give a wonderful round of applause, please, to Sacha Atherton.
Thank you.
And just before you go, if people do want to connect with yourself, what's the easiest way? Is it going to be LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yes, Sacha Atherton. And I'd say, Happy Hair Box on Instagram. I don't use Twitter. I'm not a Twitter fan, to be honest. I've got one, but I don't use it. Happy Hair Box on the Instagram, and LinkedIn, Sacha Atherton, I'd say the best ones.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So for one of the things that we've started to link in now that we do with Entrepreneurs for Good and he was a big inspiration of mine, he was an inspiration of Roger's, is a guy called Buckminster Fuller. Bucky was a scientist, a philosopher, an engineer, he was an architect, and he coined the idea of working on something called the world game. And he said, how do we make humanity work for every single person on the planet with spontaneous cooperation, with the least harm and the least bother caused to every single person? And he envisaged a world where you could see all the resources on the planet. This is way before the internet. You could see all the resources on the planet, and you could distribute those resources to wherever they need. Because he said we don't have a resource problem. We have all the food, water, shelter, raw materials we could ever want. What we have is a distribution problem. And so he devised this game, which he called the World Game, and it was really about creating a world whereby people saw the whole planet as one ecosystem, funnily enough, like it was one big business. And it was really about distribution. Unfortunately, he died before he could really deliver that. And his message, what did they say? Today's news is tomorrow's fish paper, wrapping paper, whatever the saying is. You know what I mean? And it's taken until like in the last couple of years where Bucky's been spoken about more and more. People are researching him more and more. And so what's happened now within Entrepreneurs Institute globally and within Entrepreneurs for Good in the Northwest is we're starting something called the World Game. And that's what these global goals are for. We align with them. And at the last event, for people coming to this event, can we get what was the run through of what we were managed to give at the last event? Do you remember the impacts? No, okay, I was on the spot. But last month we gave a certain amount of impacts towards providing clean drinking water for people. We provided fresh seeds for people across the planet. We provided education for children in developing countries. And each of these things we measure in a unit called an impact. And we might only give 10 impacts. I think we raised about 40 or 50 pounds at the last event. And that equates to so many tens or hundreds of impacts. But the point is that it's very easy to sit and to complain. I mean, we're British at the end of the day, and we live in the Northwest, and people moan about rain, although right now people just seem to moan about it being too hot. But we can, instead of moaning about something, you can start to link what you do as a business with something that's bigger and better than what it is that you're doing. And so we tie everything that we're doing it with this event, And there's some material and literature on the table just to share some of the different ways in which we grow within the EI community. But it's really starting to think about whatever business you're in or wanting to be. And I was speaking to a lady earlier on. You can make hair boxes, which in a way has no benefit on a developing country. But you could turn around and say that hair box, every time I produce a hair box, I'm going to provide access to education for a child for a day. Do you want to give us a run through what we did last month?
We provide, there we go. So last month we provided 20 children with clean water for a month in Tanzania. We enabled 5 children to be able to go to school for the next month in Zimbabwe. We gave 20 children access to improved sanitation in Tanzania for the month, and provided 10 children with library books for the month.
Wow, fantastic. And we do all this through a platform called B1G1, which stands for Buy One, Give One. And it's 100% to end causes. There's absolutely no admin fees or any of the things which unfortunately have given charities a bad name, and it's wrong because they're not all in that category, but it does happen. We as an organisation, we pay for B1G1 to exist, so we actually pay their admin fees, but every time we give an impact, that impact goes to the end cause. And out of 7 people that apply as a charity to be on the platform, 6 are rejected, because their criteria for making sure that you are transparent, you have the right heart, what you're doing is a benefit, is so high that the majority of people get rejected. And so I just want you to leave, and when you're leaving, is just start to think about, as you're growing your business, whatever it is that you're doing, even if some of the impacts are 10 cents, 10 pence, which means nothing to yourselves, it can go a long way in another country. And that's what we're doing slowly with the EI community, the global goals, B1G1, and starting to play this world game that, just like your business when you first started and yourselves, might start with trickles and tiny little things, but before you know it, instead of it being a USP now, it becomes the norm. And actually consumers and customers will come to you and say, what makes you different? Because I'm already getting employees and team members that want to join who have asked me the question, why should I work for you? Which is a perfectly valid question to ask. So for our next event, we are on the 10th of July, which is in about 4 weeks' time, second Tuesday of every month. We actually have at our next event, he's here for us today. It's Warren at the back of the room. Didn't know. Warren is going to talk to us. He's going to talk to us about marketing specifically and how he's managed to weave in everything I've just talked about, which is about contribution, about giving, how he's weaved that into his workshops and his programs, and the value add that actually provides for the end client. So he not only can facilitate giving within his own workshops, but he encourages other businesses to weave it into their marketing as well. Because every time we give, in a way your customers gave because they gave you the money in the first place. And we call that armchair contribution. There is, on everyone's table, do you want to lift up the piece of paper you lifted up before? I always forget to do this, but please, guys, if you can, we have a really simple feedback form. Without feedback, we can't improve and we can't promote and we can't learn what we're doing well and what we need to work on. So I'd love it if you could fill that in for us. And all that's left to say is a really big thank you. A thank you first to EI, Entrepreneurs Institute. Without Roger's global AI platform, we would not be here today. I wouldn't have learned some of the stuff I've learned, and it wouldn't give us the platform to enable to share what we're talking about here with the world. I want to give a big thank you, and just to find out first, who's never been to Chapter 1, which is this place before? Oh, not too many this time, 4. Well, I hope you'll agree it's absolutely beautiful. So this is where we have our events, and it is one of Manchester's best kept bookstore and coffee secrets. A huge thanks to the EFG team. We've got a couple at the back, and we've got Aaron over there checking our text as well. So thank you. These guys volunteer their time for us to help and support, and we're always open for more volunteers. And a final thank you, of course, once again, all the way from Nottingham, Sacha Atherton, and for everyone else, a round of applause.